A very good morning to everyone. Dignitaries on the dais, Mr. Sunil Kumar, Joint Secretary Refineries, MOPNG, Mr. Prabh Das, MD and CEO, HMEL, Ms. Shukla, Ms. Sri, Director Refineries, Indian Oil, Mr. Gurmeet Singh, DG FIPI, Mr. Soni, Mr. Bansal, Mr. Mitra, Dr. Malhotra, Mr. Garg, and all distinguished audience who's present here with us for the Global Refining Petroleum Congress. Welcome and good morning to all of you. It is indeed a privilege for me to be here amongst all of you, to be part of this conference which we have gathered physically, I think after many, many months. We are all connected virtually. The content is there on the virtual media, but the emotions and the commitment, which is always visible and felt when we meet face to face, is indeed very welcome. And I'm sure the conference, which is an amalgam of what the industry is today and where the industry is likely to go in the future, will bring substance, will bring to the audience and to the participants and even the presenters a lot of value which we all will take back to each of our organizations. Now, looking at the energy sector as a whole, there is an undoubted fact that the growth of the Indian economy, which is poised despite all challenges on a growth path, up above 8% of GDP growth, led by the 8 core industries, is a sure shot objective to India reaching a 5 trillion economy. While we are aware that coal forms a very important and substantial part of the primary energy mix, and oil follows, in future, the way the transitions are happening and the way the world is pressurizing through the changes of the climate to the corporates to change the way they look, the way they think, the technologies they deploy, the investments they make, is definitely going to impact. Nevertheless, the petroleum products, which are the backbone of sustainability, the backbone of the economic growth, is having a target to achieve close to 440 million tons per annum by 2030. Looking forward, as my previous eminent speakers have mentioned and spoken in detail, the integration of refinery with petrochemical, moving forward to niche petrochemicals, to the entire value chain, even as MD and CEO HMEL mentioned, towards pharma, is definitely charting a way for the industry to diversify its portfolio. The benefit is twofold. One is to get the margin, which is sustained, and the second is to also support an industry wherein there is an inherent demand with respect to health and the safety, and due to the current situation of the pandemic as well. Despite the Honorable Prime Minister's clarion call to reduce the import dependency, we have in fact risen in terms of crude dependency to almost 85%, and we are 55% dependent on natural gas. There are several measures which the Government of India has taken to improve and commercialize several of its operations. Nevertheless, the interventions are not just having room for more, but the adoption of those interventions, the policies for the industry to adapt, is necessary for reducing this import dependency. Whether we talk of shifting to the bridge fuel of a gas economy, wherein we are looking at enhancing from 6.2% to 15% by 2030, whether we are looking to interventions in sustainable mobility towards electric vehicles, whether we are looking to ethanol blending and advancing that blend to almost 2023 in some stations and 2025 to 20% ethanol, whether we are looking at Satat scheme for CBG, looking at distributed models which are befitting the country, integrating it with gas grid, whether we're looking to expand the network of PNG and CGD into almost all the cities of the nation, whether we are looking to monetize coal towards supplementing the needs and substituting the needs from crude oil. All of these are directed towards the reduction of dependency and enhancement of self-reliance. In all these initiatives, the underlying factor remains to drive towards, besides self-sustainability, for clean environment and clean energy. There is room in the nation with a population growing 1.34 billion today and growing forward. There is room for all, and there is aspirations for all, which needs that the energy must be sustainable, it has to be affordable, and it has to be available at a price which the customer can choose, both in terms of form of energy and price of energy. The market mechanisms, the commercialization, and the interventions of policy, which then derives the price of each energy, is important for the customer. And we are seeing this today. The perception of the customer is driving the market, driving the sale and the penetration of EVs. It's driving many other factors. Even in the residential areas, we see the intervention of solar, grid connectivity, smart grid, microgrids. These are all transformations which are important to be active at ground level to break these barriers. And in the end of it all, as I see it, there is an integration of all forms of energy, whether we are looking at clean energy for towards power generation, whether we're looking at renewables there, we're looking at any other forms of biofuels, we are looking at integrating of biofuels in a fossil fuel refinery, we are looking at green hydrogen to give the reduction of CO2 footprint, while we look at SMR generation from fossil-based feeds. These are all going to emerge in equilibrium, primarily determined by the cost curves as they come down in years to come, the interventions of R&D innovation in technology. When we talk of hydrogen and we talk of the 1-1-1 model, and when we see the ground reality today, it is a challenge for anybody to invest to get a break-even such that the price at the gate of the products is equivalent to what we do with grey hydrogen today. However, all these changes are important to know, and it is important for any corporate, any leader of a corporate, any member of the corporate family to understand and appreciate. And I say that because when we look at the future of energy, not only is it integrated, but it needs the speed of decision-making. Speed of decision-making emanates from the knowledge, understanding of where the world is going tomorrow. It has at its backdrop the strength of R&D, strength of innovation, strength of not only innovation in technology, but also innovation in operations. The agility, the ability to cut down cost at every step of operations in any organization, whether it's a manufacturing company, whether it's a refinery company, it's a marketing company, or it's a consultancy company. It is across board, because corporates have to survive in this world of transition and have to prosper and achieve sustainable and continuous growth. Therefore, the leadership, there is a lot of challenge. It is important that the leadership looks at a dual role. It looks at the visibility of the corporate in terms of how the corporate is positioned in times of tomorrow. And it also ensures that within the organization there are rapid changes in terms of reskilling, in terms of additional and specialty skills. You know, some years back, many of the organizations were having teams who were doing many things at a time. And today, the need is, we need specialists in many fields, whether it is O2C, whether it is biofuels, whether it is green hydrogen, whether it is materials, you name it, whether it is EV, battery technology. These are needing special skills and special knowledge. And this knowledge, the deep knowledge, is going to drive the future. It is important that each of us, each of the leaders in the audience and the young participants that I see who will become future leaders, it's important that we adapt and absorb the change and be ready to face the world of the future. Recently, in the COP26 summit, this theme has been emphasized explicitly and very categorically by our Honorable Prime Minister when he announced the Panchamrit of India's transition. And just to bring them in focus once again, I will just spell them out. Looking at enhancing the non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatt by 2030. And even if we are the oil sector, there is a role for us. And the role is because we are all looking at not only becoming carbon neutral, but going towards net zero. So each of the organizations have to figure out a role as to where we fit in to achieve that target. The second one, meeting 50% of the energy requirement of the nation from renewable by 2030. This is just around the corner. And this has to be available 24/7. So one has to factor in how to achieve this for the nation. The next, looking at reduction of carbon emissions by 1 billion tons. And we have 1/3 of the global average of the energy consumption. And we need to bring it up 3 times with the growth of the population to have each of our citizens equally having the energy which is from a first world country. By 2030, reducing the carbon intensity of the economy by 45%, such that by 2070, we achieve a net zero target for the nation. So this is the goal that each of us, each of the organizations have to aspire for. And I would be happy to share with the audience that EIL board and Joint Secretary Refineries is part of the board. We have spelled out a roadmap to declare the company as net zero by 2035. And then the internal target is a fast-track target, which is almost 5 years lower than the declared target. So this is the way the world is changing for future. And I'm sure the way we are deliberating and the substance that is there in terms of the content of the seminar will bring to fore the underlying technicalities, the developments, the R&D, the innovation, which is the root and which is the base for taking the industry forward towards a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable corporate, a more responsible corporate. And I'm sure it will benefit each and every one of you. Thank you, and it's great for me to be here. Thank you so much.